Hello, YouTube and BitChute friends. I will upload this on BitChute as well. I'm going to throw my hat into the ring of what the next level of depravity after the COVID shit show has. It hasn't ended because people are still terrified and they're wearing masks and doing all the things that don't work because they've been psyoped into believing in some kind of mysterious. Maybe it's not so mysterious, but what is a beer virus? Something that's just a unicorn fancy in somebody's brain that there is a virus out there that's going to attack you and all this. Obviously, people will say, "Well, it's like infection and all that kind of stuff happens." No, people, infection, the way they tell us, nothing they tell us actually makes any sense. Ultimately, even the things that seem to make sense, I was always, thinking about infectious germ stuff. They call it a theory for a good reason because it's never been proven. They've never isolated any virus from a human host. They've never done those necessary lab experiments that confirm anything. They just proclaim. And the proclamations assist some kind of a narrative that will ultimately lead to the complete and total utter domination of every human being on earth. This is as far-fetched as that might sound. The only ones that won't be affected maybe are the ones in the Amazon that no so-called civilized human has ever come across. So the shit show was a perfect example of a psyop. I understood this very early on. Within a week, there was this sort of I've never bought into the infectious germ theory idea. But I left the door open because when Maria was teaching kids for a long time, they'd come in with colds, and then sometimes Maria would have, because she surrounded herself with kids that had colds, and I don't know what the mechanism exactly might be in terms of maybe it's sympathetic in some form. But I kind of kept the door open that there's some kind of transfer of invisible particles that get into you and try to destroy you. Well, that for me, after a week, I realized with the COVID shit show that something else was going on. Now, I'm going to throw, like I said, my hat into the ring of this. I said that the next psyop will be introduced by saints, and I'll not that he's a saint, but I'm paying attention to certain what you call truthers in this uh, in this worldwide web of deceit. The people that post information, somebody as I find extremely entertaining, this Cliff High guy, and he's been introducing more and more the alien connection. The idea he still thinks we're on a ball spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, all these kind of ridiculous, so obviously insane ideas when you think about it. He still subscribes to the vacuum of space and stars and balls floating around all over the place and circling each other and having like magnificent 26,000 year cycles and 22 trillion pulses and all this kind of unicorn imagination from a very entertaining guy. And here I realized he's a good litmus test for me in terms of the so-called saints introducing us to the next psyop. So he's not the only one. I think there are other people that take this alien garbage. They're buying it 100%. Now, it hasn't happened, so I'm actually preempting. I'm not the only one. I say I'm throwing my hat into this fellow Richie from Boston, who's just like such a complainer. He's a pain in the ass, but he has a certain understanding that also makes sense, and he talks about it when he gets through his complaining and his irritation with everybody. He's so irritated with everyone. The poor guy is like pushing his anxiety levels to DEFCON. What is that? The worst one is DEFCON 5, or is it 1? Anyway, he's at DEFCON 1 or 5, whichever the worst is, all the time. And he's talked about the fact that he's got this religious slant and biblical slant to the whole thing about the aliens, and even some of that religious stuff begins to make sense to some extent because the what is understood to be scriptures, Hebrew scriptures and Christian scriptures, do have substantial significance in identifying and articulating in a kind of code how reality actually works. This is the amazing part of my understanding of scripture, that they were essentially the glyphs used in specifically in Hebrew scriptures are also equations. They're numbers and letters. The Hebrew alphabet is both. So the texts, whenever they were compiled, revealed something that for most is hidden because we don't have the true language or the significance, the meaning of the equations, essentially. If the letters are numbers and these are equations, it's extremely complex from even a mathematical point of view. That if you see, let's see, the tetragrammaton is Yod He Vav He, it has a significance in terms of number at 10,565, I think it is. So when you begin to analyze these equations, they reveal the nature of our reality based on insights that people were able to communicate, and maybe for them it was obvious, but for us it isn't. So there are different scholars, Kabbalistic scholars, for example, who are perfectly on the level. This is the one that I really liked was Carlos Suarez. He was magnificent in his understanding of these glyphs. So anyway, why did I go into the scriptures? Okay, yeah, Richie of Boston has this proclivity to see everything in the context of the omnipotent being as revealed through scriptures. And I think it's limited. The idea of the omnipotent being for me is something that I am a part of. So it's kind of like a fish swimming in water. Does the fish know he's swimming in water? Does she know she's swimming in water? And it's kind of like that in the sense of the omnipotent being. So if you're attempting to extract the significance of this higher consciousness, if you want to call it that, whatever that might be, it's even beyond consciousness. I think consciousness, when it's referred to the creator, is a ridiculous reference, because consciousness itself is the creator and beyond. It's like, what is beyond consciousness in a sense? Consciousness is everything, but when it comes to the mystery, I think consciousness is the divider between us and the mystery in a curious way. And consciousness is very complex as well, if you can imagine that. Even crystalline consciousness, people have talked about this, is so clearly elegant and beautiful, rather than just random, anarchic, this sort of idea that everything Carl Sagan randomness is ridiculous. It's insane. It's like eyeballs were not just random inventions by the random universe. Okay, my point today is the next shit show, which is going to be much bigger than the COVID shit show. I think they've basically exhausted the idea of illness at this point, and it won't be an illness shit show. It'll be an invasion shit show. The invasion shit show will be by curious creatures that have come through the vacuum of space, entered our tiny little ball in the middle of nothingness. They're so brilliant in being able to traverse space with whatever that supposed speed of light is. They go way beyond that, because it would take 10 so many millions of years, or so many light years, for any entity to travel through, and like, then they have this amazing technology, but still they crash. They're like assholes that crash. They're stupid when it comes to our dimension here, our atmosphere. These crafts, supposedly with some kind of entity in it, that have a technology way beyond what we could possibly imagine. Oh, geez, they happen to crash. Everything needs to be put into human context. This is what gives it away as well. When explanations happen that make sense to human beings, like I say, the mystery is something we're a part of. We have no understanding or comprehension of this complexity. So whenever something is put on our plate that we can chew on easily, like, oh, alien spacecraft has crashed, you know already there is a rat here. It stinks, it smells. So now they're introducing this stinky, fucked up rat called alien invasion or alien craft or whatever they want to call it. And they're going to set it up in such a way that people can be even more terrified than a vicious beer virus killing all life on Earth. That, if you remember, was the original story behind the beer virus, that this COVID thing is going to attack every single human being on Earth. And the people that didn't get any of the attention were the most successful in surviving. If you look at Africa and places that the Amazon, these people, maybe the virus didn't get that far. Although they said it's everywhere, it's global, it's all over the ball, global, everywhere you can imagine there's air being breathed in. This is where this beer virus would end up and kill everybody. So the most successful places were, in fact, where the white coats never were able to intervene, help. They want to help us. They really do. The white coats really want to help us. It's like there is nothing else, but it's a deep calling to help us all. I'm sure there are some that have this passion and commitment to leaving the world a better place. But for the most part, the medical system, the white coats, the scientist types, are selfish bastards who've been captured by the very group, the people that we understand when we become aware have no interest in us whatsoever. And I can see this in the medical system, how it's becoming, we're clients now. Here in my local area, I'm referred to not as a patient, but a client. So that, again, gives it away. I refuse to be called a client to a person that is intimately involved in my health, which is becoming less and less in terms of the system, other than what I absolutely need. I'm going through issues that are quite significant and important to me, and I am not relying on their help to help me, other than a possible diagnosis, and even that I will not submit to certain procedures that they consider to be so important in order to diagnose my situation. So I'm somewhat in I guess in terms of the allopathic system, I don't really know exactly what's going on, but I know something is wrong. So I am in a program, I'm healing myself, and I'll make a video about this when I'm done. I've been going through this for over 3 months, since the beginning of February. And anyway, my point today is that the people that love us so much are not to be relied on. Governments, institutions, corporations, we all know this. I'm just listing the usual suspect, but what I'm putting out this video with the idea that I said the next shit show will be introduced by saints. And by saints here, I mean people who are, to a lot of truth seekers, reliable sources. And unless we have that spidey sense, that instinct that says, well, this is insane. I mean, other than, like I mentioned, this Cliff High guy, who comes up with a lot of explanations. He's a broken clock. He makes predictions and he's right twice a day because the clock breaks. And he piggybacks on his broken clock. But at the same time, there is a kind of revelation going on with people like this, whether he is complicit within this framework of PSYOP or just a dupe, an intelligent dupe. The guy is not stupid. He's intelligent. He can survive. He can do stuff. I'm picking on him because I can't think of anyone else right now. There are many suspects here. The saints, as I would call them, are going to introduce us to the next PSYOP, which will be, as Richie of Boston, through his scriptural context, has pointed out, is going to happen. He calls them demons that are going to be released. Again, he's introducing um, an esoteric element here that, again, is something that is complex and we don't really understand. So we put little labels on it. So he calls them demons released. Now, demons is a fancy word for some element of depravity that is going to be unleashed on us. And the appearance of this depravity, I mean, I'm not sure how clever the uh, these uh, these bastards, these degenerates, how clever they may be in able to hoodwink the population in some way that actually appears like, oh, they're like demons and we have to hide in the basement from these demons. So my alert is it's becoming quite clear that when the so-called mainstream news is articulating uh, this story about alien invasions like War of the Worlds. What was that guy? Orson Welles did it in '38 or whenever it was. From this other insider. What's his? Not Jules Verne, but the other guy that wrote War of the Worlds. This was also in a long-term plan, like 70, 80, 90, 100-year plan. It was a kind of test to see how far the human being could be pushed before the human being loses their mind. And we've seen with the COVID shit show, I would say probably 90% of the population lost their mind completely. They would do ridiculously stupid things like wear masks to prevent from microscopic things that can't even be virtually, only an electron microscope can see this lethal particle, that a mask would keep it out. So people would do ridiculously stupid things and put them on their kids when there's no mortality whatsoever shown in this dangerous moment, this shit show that they created. The pandemic was the orchestrated shit show all around the idea. So the pandemic existed, but not as a virus, but as a psyop. The pandemic was the psyop. And it's transitioning. It appears now very quickly. I'm actually surprised in some way how quickly this is evolving. This next story that is unfolding through certain mainstream media is covering it in different places now. Not that the UFO thing hasn't been covered substantially, like this Bob Lazar guy, another PSYOP agent who said, oh, I saw them, these little green men. People, if they come from, Alpha Centauri, which is like 5 light years or 10 light years or a million, billion, trillion miles away, and they fly into our airspace and crash, they're fucking dingus doofus bunch. I'm not afraid of them. If they're crashing, it's not an issue, right? But they have to create this weird story that makes sense to that sort of brain cell thing that we function on for most of the time. We don't function anymore on our given on this element in us called a conscience, or even I'll even go into that sort of rational mind, that people with a rational mind would never be fooled by shit like aliens crashing. That is so fucking ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. Entities that have traversed the vacuum of space, which is lethal, hostile. It's like going to the moon through their fictitious Van Allen belts. They come up with this crap and all this stuff that's supposedly the nothingness of space. It would just suck everybody out into nothingness. The walls on these spacecraft would have to be like 6-foot thick reinforced titanium steel to not get sucked out. Like, you remember an Alien, when the window busted and this alien creature, like this hostile, vicious creature, got sucked through a little pinhole, because they were showing us that the vacuum of space is so powerful that as soon as you have a little pinhole, like microdust hit the spacecraft and you have a pinhole, everything gets sucked out into space with nothing left. It'll be inverted. It's like when you turn your t-shirt inside out. Come on, people. Start making sense of shit that is being shown, like that alien thing being sucked into space, because the vacuum of space will suck everything through it, and there aren't walls big enough that we can build in a spaceship. It would be so heavy, it wouldn't make any sense to launch it into the vacuum of space. Anyway, alert, alert, warning, warning. Will Robinson, danger, danger. The next psyop is in it appears the next psyop is well underway. And I didn't know how it would manifest. Richie of Boston is absolutely right. His scriptural contextualizing stuff doesn't make sense to me, but hey, he can attach himself to anything that makes sense to him. He's trying to put it through his human brain cells, something that can't be comprehended. It's a mystery, people. And no matter how many gods or God you put in front of you with sacred scriptures, it's still a mystery. Ultimately, the omnipotent being isn't going to reveal itself through your brain cells. It's going to be in other forms. I might do a video on what the forms might be. Obviously, I make paintings because it's a much more elegant way of communicating with the mystery. And that's basically what art ultimately is. It's the individual having a liaison, having a romance, as I say, well, a romance with the mystery, or as I say, I have a romance with eternity, because the continuity is part of my thought process. And in order for me to be able to comprehend, or not comprehend, but be able to keep my sanity, I suppose, is a good way of putting it, within this mystery, I make the work. I make paintings that reflect this sort of acceptance of that I'm a part of something that I'll never understand, but I'm a part of it. So I am the understanding itself. All right, that's my thought today. 22 minutes. Uh, I think it's. I'm going on the record. Just listen to Richie from Boston. He's absolutely 100% correct. They're doing this alien shit thing now, and it's going to escalate over time. Not sure how long the buildup will be. They've got this figured out in terms of getting, we're kind of exhausted from the COVID shit show, but you don't give us too much of a rest, because the next level of depravity will be released through what I believe to be the saints, the people that are more trustworthy than the Fauci fucks. I mean, the Fauci fuck wore his white coat all the time, and people are so impressed by people in white coats. I'm saying, like, metaphorically. Fauci had the big white coat around him, and people are always impressed by these types that have no credibility whatsoever as it relates to the mystery. They're just like hammers looking for nails, and they're hammering us, and we're just nails getting hammered into a 2x4. PSYOP, aliens, people, coming to a neighborhood near you.